Okay, so this chapter actually gives us another huge power up for Weisz, and at the same time starts up a brand new mystery revolving around Rebecca based on the events that happened to her in the last chapter. Which I just realized I actually didn't do a review for the last chapter, so I'm just gonna give you the cliff notes of what happened. Basically, it starts off with Rebecca and Weisz still fighting off against Instead. They get hit with another round of hypnosis, and while they're actually being told to kill themselves, Lyra shows up in the tunnel to basically take Rebecca away because she plans on using her for some kind of show, which we get more details about in this chapter. But while she's actually getting taken away, we see Weisz break out of hypnosis by activating his Mark II arsenal suit. And then Nase actually reveals that he has his own mech suit, so the two of them start to fight, which most of this chapter revolves around. But then we cut over to what's going on with Lyra and Rebecca. After Lyra took her, Rebecca passes out, and when she wakes up, she ends up finding out that her consciousness went into a future alternate timeline where she had been in a coma for multiple years, and she had apparently lost her legs, seeing that they had been replaced with robotic ones. And that's actually where chapter 150 picks up, with Rebecca still freaking out over the idea of losing her legs. Now, the adult version of Shiki tries to calm her down, but it's not really working, and she only really starts to calm down once Master Noah, the future timeline Master Noah, tells her that she needs to understand exactly what happened in their timeline so she can prevent it from happening in hers. And once he starts to explain what happens, even though she is calmer now, she can't exactly hear what he's making out. She's hearing like every other word, like she's missing out on important details, and it seems like either the timeline itself is keeping her from understanding, maybe her own cat leap ability is keeping her from hearing the important parts of the story, or it's just her consciousness slowly fading back into her regular timeline that's making her not really understand. But that doesn't really make any sense to me because she's not hearing the important parts of the story that they're trying to tell her about what happened in her timeline to make her lose her legs and end up in a coma. But once they're done explaining that, she can hear them perfectly fine again until she ends up drifting way back into her own timeline. So something obviously was keeping her from hearing the important details. But again, the question becomes what was keeping her from hearing those important details? Was it her cat leap ability basically keeping her spoiler free? Or was it more along the lines, and I actually think this might be a bit of a stretch, but was it something like maybe the consciousness of her future timeline version was actually still inside the body as well? And because of the trauma that she went through, she was basically trying to, block out that information so she doesn't have to relive it in her memories. Either way, Rebecca doesn't hear the important details, but she knows something happens in the future, so she knows that she has to prevent it so that she doesn't end up losing her legs. Also, we end up finding out from the adult version of Shiki when he's telling the story of what happened, that after she ended up in a coma, that apparently something happened on the Eden Zero ship that caused everyone else besides the two of them to die. So that's another thing that she has to prevent from happening. And personally, I really dig this mystery that Hero's setting up for Rebecca. It actually reminds me a lot of what happened with Drac and Joe when he killed Shiki and the rest of the crew and captured her, and then she had to go to the alternate timeline to basically stop that from happening. It's a lot like that, but it adds a mystery to it because we don't exactly know what caused her to lose her legs, go into the coma, and for the entire crew besides her and Shiki to die off. So we're going to be going forward trying to figure out what those events were and how to stop them. And unfortunately, even though I'm excited by this new mystery that Hero's setting up, I don't think we're going to be hitting on any of this information or any of the events for a few more arcs. I mean, we might get like information here and there, like maybe in the next arc or the arc after that, we'll get like little snippets of hints towards these events. But I don't think we're actually going to be dealing with it for at least another 5 to 6 arcs from now. But anyway, once Rebecca returns to the main timeline, she ends up waking up in a bunny suit, which continues her treatment that's similar to Lucy from Fairy Tail, which pretty much Hero likes to just put those two characters in very, very revealing outfits. Anyway, we end up finding out exactly what the big game or the big show that Lyra was planning on using her for was, and apparently some kind of like deep sea party as she calls it, which is pretty much just going to be the televised version of her and Rebecca's fight, although they're not going to be traditionally fighting like how Weisz and Nesta do in the chapter. It's actually going to be kind of done playing a game called Lost Card, which we don't know exactly what the rules or what the outcome of that game is going to be, but we do know that Lyra is obviously going to have the advantage because cards are her ability. And if I had to guess, when we cut back to Rebecca and Lyra's fight, I would say that the only way she has a chance of winning is by heavily relying on her reverse ability. And then for the rest of the chapter, we actually cut back over to the fight between Weisz and Nessa, and we see that even though Weisz is in his Arsenal Mark II suit, the brand new suit that he revealed in the last chapter, he's still having a hard time dealing with Nessa in his Sea Demon suit, because of the fact that the Sea Demon is actually coated in ether energy, which means that pretty much all Weisz's attacks are null and void. Which means that for majority of the chapter, Weisz is actually on the run. Now, the dialogue that Nessa had in the chapter was actually kind of weird and actually makes me wonder how old is he actually? Because of the fact that throughout the entire chapter he's talking to Weisz about, and I actually have to say this very slowly, because I always fuck it up when I try to say it fast. Shoot 'em up games, which, if you don't know, are actually games like Asteroids and Space Invaders, which were actually very fun games I used to play when I was a kid. But basically, the point of those games are you're playing a character or like a spaceship or something like that that has pretty much unlimited ammo. You have multiple opponents coming at you all at once, and it's pretty much just you're trying to kill off all the opponents before they kill you. And then once you kill all the mini opponents, you end up fighting off against a big boss at the end where you just continue to shoot them over and over again until they die or until you get killed off by them. But anyway, I actually do understand why Hero put a reference to those types of games in this chapter, because for one, Hero, if you don't know this about him, is actually a very big gamer. In fact, in his offer notes for the last few chapters, he's been talking a lot about playing the Monster Hunter game for the Switch and other games on top of that. But we also see that the way that Nessette attacks in this chapter with the Sea Demon armor is very similar to the way you would attack with a shoot 'em up, where he's just sending barrages of bullets at Weisz throughout the entire chapter without any need to stop or basically reload. So it makes sense why he'd actually have that kind of reference in this chapter. But I don't know, the dialogue that he has in this chapter really makes me think that he's either older than he looks, or he's similar to Weisz, where maybe after a chronophage reversed time on his planet, he left it, so now maybe there's two versions of Nessette, an older version and a younger version, just like how there's Weisz running around somewhere in the current timeline. Anyway, continuing to fight, once Weisz realizes that the only way for him to produce a Nefer bullet strong enough to break through the Sea Devil's defenses is pretty much by destroying the Arsenal Mark II suit, he decides instead to actually rush him by using his Ether Gear ability to remodel the suit from the inside out and destroy it. Now, what's kind of interesting about this is that Weisz had a clear win right here when he did that. He could have easily just made a spike or something from the inside of the suit to stab right through Nessette's chest and killed him, but instead he decides to just break his arms and make it immobile so they can't attack him anymore. So, yeah, he gets a victory, but it seems like he could have got a much cleaner victory by doing that. But after he does that, the Arsenal Mark II's helmet actually breaks, giving Nessette the perfect chance to put Weisz back under hypnosis. But when he tries, we end up finding out that the reason why Weisz was running around the entire city was because he was actually setting up signal jammers, so in case his Arsenal suit broke, he wouldn't actually be put back under hypnosis by Nessette. And then once Nessette realizes that he actually has no way of attacking Weisz, Weisz remodels the ground and brings up a bunch of guns, and uses a brand new move called Million Bullets, which is very similar to what Nessette was doing to him throughout the entire chapter, where he sends a barrage of bullets, an endless barrage of bullets, and Nessette destroying the Sea Demon suit and taking him out. And then this is when we get at the very end of the chapter to reveal, just like how we did with Homer, that Weisz has activated his overdrive. And Weisz's overdrive actually looks very similar to Gray's Demon Slayer form in Fairy Tail. So obviously Hero's taking inspiration from that when he was designing this, but otherwise the design looks very cool. A lot cooler, I would say, than the Arsenal Mark II did. And again, I actually did kind of like the Arsenal Mark II, but I heard the complaints that people were having because of the fact that it looks very similar to the Arsenal Mark I, just as a jacket. I can agree with that, but when you look at it, it seems like Hero is actually saving the really cool design for his overdrive. And after seeing Weisz activate his overdrive, it kind of confirms my suspicion that after training with Zenila for that week, everyone who didn't already have their overdrive unlocked did end up unlocking it, except for maybe Rebecca. And when it comes to Shiki and Jin, who already had their overdrives, I think pretty much what ended up happening with them is that they actually just went to the next level. Because if you remember from when they were fighting Draken Joe, he revealed that Shiki's overdrive wasn't a true overdrive. So there's obviously levels to this, kind of like how there is for Super Saiyan. There's, Super Saiyan 1, Super Saiyan 2, Super Saiyan 3, and so forth. But anyway, guys, that's pretty much it for the video. That's all that happened in the chapter. I can't wait to see actually what ends up happening with this brand new mystery when it comes to Rebecca and figuring out exactly how she's going to stop the events that happened in the alternate timeline. Also, I'm looking forward to next chapter because I'm assuming we're going to be dealing with the fight between Rebecca and Lyra, and I'm interested in finding out what this lost card game is, because obviously Lyra's going to have some kind of trick to it that's going to give her the advantage, and I'm looking forward to seeing exactly how Rebecca, besides using reverse, ends up winning that fight. But pretty much that's it for the chapter, guys. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, drop me a like. I would greatly appreciate that. Comment down below your thoughts and theories on the chapter and what's going to be happening in the future of the series, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace.